Welcome to SoulScripture. You didn't stumble upon this message by chance. Heaven orchestrated this moment for you. Right now, there's a holy stirring in the spirit. And if you've been feeling a subtle but persistent unrest in your soul, it's not your imagination. It's divine. Something in the atmosphere has shifted, and if you're sensitive, you can feel it like the echo of footsteps in an empty hallway or a wind blowing through your life that doesn't come from this world. Chosen one, this is not just a season change. It's a relocation of destiny. God is about to pick you up from where you've been surviving and plant you where you were always meant to thrive. This is your divine relocation, not just physically, spiritually, emotionally. Prophetic alignment is underway. You may be standing in the same room, looking at the same walls, walking the same daily routines, but in the unseen realm, the structure around you is already dissolving. The expiration date on this old chapter has arrived. The Spirit of God has declared it. The cloud is moving. And when the cloud moves, the faithful don't delay, they follow. There are times when God whispers, but then there are moments like this when He announces, commands, shifts. He's not merely suggesting you prepare. He's telling you plainly, asterisk, it's time. And yes, it may feel abrupt, uncertain, even uncomfortable. But so did every divine move in Scripture. When God told Abraham to leave everything and go to a land, I will show you, He didn't hand him a blueprint. He handed him a promise, a spiritual compass. And that's what He's giving you now. You've been sensing it for weeks, maybe even months. Something isn't right where you are. You've prayed for clarity. You've asked if it's just stress or fatigue, but your spirit knows. You lie awake at night with a restlessness that won't let go. You feel it in your chest, like your heart is pacing, even when your body is still. And here's why. Your environment no longer matches your elevation. You're growing, spiritually, energetically, divinely. But the space around you has stagnated. This move is not just about comfort, it's about consecration. God is not changing your address for luxury. He's changing it for alignment. The walls that have heard your weeping will not hear your rejoicing. The floorboards that creaked beneath the weight of your suffering will not carry the steps of your breakthrough. That place you're in, yes, even if it once was, a blessing has become too small for your calling, and heaven is issuing orders. It's time to move. But here's the part they don't tell you. Divine moves rarely begin with open doors. They begin with whispers, tension, spiritual discomfort. It starts with the subtle realization that something feels off even when everything looks fine. That's not confusion, that's discernment. God will allow discomfort to grow where comfort once lived, to push you out of survival and into sacred strategy. You see, when a baby eagle has grown too large for the nest, the mother begins to stir it. She'll remove the soft feathers and bring in sharp twigs until the nest becomes unbearable. Why? Because she knows if the eaglet stays, it will never learn to fly. God, in His mercy, does the same. The discomfort you feel is the twig in the nest. It's not punishment, it's propulsion. And chosen one, if you don't move when God stirs the nest, you risk becoming too attached to what was only meant to be temporary. Some homes were only ever tents in the wilderness, not temples of permanence. And staying longer than you're called to stay turns a shelter into a prison. But now, the divine announcement has been made. The season is shifting, and the window is open. This is your sacred release. Listen to the signs. The strange tension in your house, the friendships that feel misaligned, the opportunities that have dried up, the peace that's grown scarce. These are not coincidences. They are divine indicators that the Spirit of God is preparing a new location, a new assignment, a new covering. You are not being abandoned, you are being aligned. Let this word settle deep within you. You are being moved by the hand of God. Asterisk. No, you may not have the details yet. No, the finances may not be in place. No, you may not have seen the email, the offer, the open door, but heaven isn't waiting on logistics. Heaven is watching for your posture. Are you positioned in faith, or are you anchored in fear? Because if you're still waiting on confirmation, here it is. This is it. This is your word. You are not just changing locations, you are shifting dimensions. You are leaving behind spiritual poverty and stepping into divine provision. You're leaving behind emotional warfare and entering the field of peace. The house you once dwelled in represented a season. This next place will represent a covenant. And yes, it will come suddenly, unexpectedly, maybe not even through the route you anticipated. But God is not limited to natural methods. He is the author of miraculous moments. What seems impossible to you is inevitable to Him. So, chosen one, it's time to pack your faith, time to gather your prayers, time to ready your heart, because God is about to change your address in the Spirit, and the breakthrough won't wait for your comfort. It will wait only for your obedience. The house that held you is not the house that will heal you. Read that again. Chosen one, let's talk plainly. Now, not every place you've called home has been a haven. Some roofs have sheltered you physically, but have warred against your peace spiritually. There are walls around you that carry the echoes of your weeping, rooms that have heard your whispered prayers, soaked in midnight tears. And yes, even spaces where you've smiled on the outside but withered on the inside. The truth is, many of God's chosen ones have endured environments that look harmless, even blessed. From the outside but inside, the atmosphere is heavy, stale, poisoned. You walk through the door and feel a weight that has no physical form but clings to your spirit like fog. You've done all the right things. You've prayed in those rooms. You've anointed the walls, played worship music, lit candles, spoken declarations, and yet the tension remains. The silence is loud. The joy feels fake. Something is wrong, and your spirit knows it. This is not your imagination. It is spiritual discernment. You see, when the Spirit of the living God begins to withdraw His grace from a place, everything shifts. The colors fade, the conversations sour, the very air becomes thick. God, in His mercy, is trying to awaken you to what's no longer aligned. The house you're in, whether rented or bought, temporary or long-term, has served its purpose. But it is no longer part of your promise. You've outgrown the place that once protected you. Think about the Israelites. For a time, Egypt was their place of provision during famine. But what began as refuge became bondage. And when God was ready to shift them, He didn't just give them an exit, He gave them a vision. I have prepared a land flowing with milk and honey. But before they could walk into it, they had to unlearn what it meant to live in slavery. Chosen one, what if God is trying to teach you that some places were only meant to be passage, not promise? I want you to hear this with your spirit. Some of you are emotionally fatigued, not because you're lazy or undisciplined, but because the house you're in is spiritually rejecting your destiny. It's not that you're failing to thrive, it's that you've been planted in soil that can no longer support your roots. You've been fighting for air in a room where the windows of heaven have already closed. You were never meant to build your future in a place that only tolerated your presence but never honored your calling. One woman once shared her story, a home where everything broke down. The appliances, her marriage, her health. The more she prayed, the worse it seemed to get. Until, in a moment of desperation, she asked God to reveal what she couldn't see, and He did. The house was never her promise. It was a passage, a stop along the way. Within weeks, an opportunity she never applied for opened up, and, in her new place, the migraines stopped, the heaviness lifted, peace returned. That is not coincidence. That is divine relocation. The house you live in right now may still have furniture that fits your style, but does the energy in the room fit your spirit? Does your heart feel safe there, or is it shrinking? Do you walk in with expectation or with dread? Are you healing or just hiding from the world? God is too intentional to leave you in a space that stifles you. Psalm 34 says, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." He's not just aware of your pain, He's preparing to lift you out of the place that caused it. And yes, that may mean leaving behind what's familiar. But remember, familiarity is not always safety. Sometimes it's the very chain that keeps you bound. You cannot become who you're called to be while remaining in the environment that hurt who you used to be. There's a shift taking place. Some of you are living in places that feel like battlegrounds, rooms thick with tension, children restless, marriages strained. It's not just stress, it's spiritual warfare. And the Lord is exposing it, not to scare you, but to deliver you from it. He's saying, I didn't call you to survive inside a house where my presence no longer dwells. He's calling you into order, into peace, into divine presence. The next place God prepares for you will be drenched in peace. Not manufactured peace, but supernatural peace. You'll walk through the door and feel it in your bones. This is different. This is safe. This is mine. Asterisk. You'll wake up in the morning without the tightness in your chest. You'll breathe easier, think clearer, laugh deeper. And for the first time in a long time, your soul will say, this is home. But first, you must acknowledge what this current place has become. Don't dress it up. Don't justify it. Don't cling to it just because you've grown used to it. God never called you to adapt to spiritual dysfunction. Let go of what no longer aligns with your peace. Chosen one, the house that has seen your pain is not the house that will witness your promise. This place held your tears, but the next will hold your testimony. And I promise you, when God moves you, the shift will be undeniable. The pressure will break. The silence will turn to worship. The dwelling will no longer drain you, will restore you. You are not just moving out, you are moving up. Let's go deeper. Chosen one. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt something you couldn't explain? Maybe it was a heaviness pressing on your chest, a sense of unease that made you want to leave without knowing why. Or a strange silence, peaceful, but tense, like the walls were holding back something unspoken. That, dear one, is not your imagination. That is spiritual atmosphere. And the space you're in right now may be soaked in more than just old memories. It may be saturated with energy that was never meant to remain. This is not just about physical location. This is about spiritual territory. There are places where the Spirit of God is welcomed, places where He is grieved, houses that feel like sanctuaries, and houses that feel like cages. And for far too long, many of God's chosen ones have been trying to thrive in places that were never anointed for their calling, places with unseen residue, energetic dust from past trauma, pain, arguments, or even spiritual contamination. And you, beloved, are feeling the weight of it. The Bible is full of clues about this reality. In Leviticus 14, God gave instructions to the priests for inspecting houses infected with mildew, a physical sign of spiritual uncleanliness. If the mark remained, the house was to be torn down, not cleaned, not painted, torn down, asterisk. Why? Because the structure itself had become spiritually unsafe. Now listen carefully, there are modern homes just like that. They look beautiful, polished floors, manicured lawns, Instagram-worthy spaces, but inside, spiritual chaos. And it clings to the walls like mildew. No amount of cleaning or decorating can remove a spiritual imprint that hasn't been confronted with prayer, cleansing, and the presence of God. Your house may not be haunted, but it may be heavy, oppressed, out of alignment. And that's why your sleep is disrupted, why your prayers feel muffled, why your joy feels capped, why arguments erupt out of nowhere, why things seem to constantly break or malfunction. It's not just bad luck, it's spiritual warfare leaking into your natural environment. And here's the hard truth. Some homes carry the residue of what happened before you ever stepped foot inside. People don't realize this, but territory remembers. A place can hold on to what occurred within its walls: trauma, betrayal, violence, even occult activity. You may be living in a house that saw destruction long before you moved in, and now you're wondering why you feel under siege. You're not crazy. You're discerning. There's a reason God told Israel to consecrate the land before settling, to cleanse it, to claim it in his name, to remove idols, tear down altars, break spiritual ties. And many today skip this vital step. They move into homes without asking what came before, without praying through the rooms, without sealing it with the Spirit. And then they wonder why their peace feels fleeting, why their finances dry up, why relationships strain. You're not being punished, you're being awakened. God is showing you the weight you've been living under so you can finally break free from it, so you can stop trying to push through an atmosphere that was never meant to host his presence. The enemy loves to hide in what looks normal. He disguises dysfunction in familiarity. And if you're not spiritually tuned in, you'll stay in a house that's spiritually unsafe simply because it looks okay on paper. But chosen one, your spirit knows. It's been trying to warn you. This restlessness you've been feeling, it's not anxiety, it's spiritual tension. Your environment no longer matches your elevation. Your frequency is shifting, you're rising, and the place you're in is resisting the growth. The old environment cannot contain your new identity, and the enemy is using that tension to wear you down. But he's already lost, because God is exposing the hidden weight. He's revealing the real reason you feel tired all the time, why your joy is inconsistent, why your energy crashes for no reason. The environment itself has become contaminated, and heaven is issuing a cleansing order, not just in your soul but in your space. The Lord is saying, asterisk, I'm not just moving you, I'm delivering you, asterisk. Chosen one, listen. You can't carry old spiritual residue into your next promise. That means this isn't just about a new address. This is about atmosphere, frequency, vibration, alignment. God is preparing to relocate you into a space where his presence will dwell freely, where your sleep will be uninterrupted, where your creativity will be stirred, and where your prayers will echo. But to receive that kind of space, you must recognize the one you're in. This house, the one you're sitting in now, has done its job. It covered you during the storm. It witnessed your tears. It held you through your process. But it's not your forever. It's your wilderness lodging. And you are now standing at the edge of your Canaan. It's time to cross over. And when you do, everything will feel lighter. The silence won't be heavy. It'll be holy. The rooms won't echo pain, they'll resound with praise. You'll walk barefoot in your kitchen and feel like you're on sacred ground, because where God sends you next, his Spirit will live there too. And that changes everything. Chosen one, let's call it what it is. What you've been experiencing isn't just discomfort, it's warfare. Spiritual warfare doesn't always announce itself with thunder and lightning. Sometimes it shows up as weariness that doesn't make sense, as tension in the atmosphere that words can't explain, as breakdown after breakdown, relationships falling apart, finances slipping through your fingers, sleep that won't come, no matter how exhausted you are. And the most dangerous part, it's subtle, familiar. You've lived in it so long, you almost forgot how peace feels. You've been fighting invisible chains, chains that have held you in a place that is no longer part of God's plan for you. These aren't chains of iron, but they're heavy just the same. Chains made of emotional attachments, old memories, grief that never got named, doubts that whisper at night. These are the silent assassins of spiritual elevation, and if you don't break them, they'll break you. God is not just relocating you to a new home. He's delivering you from the war zone your current space has become. Some of you, yes, even nowhere, living in homes that were meant to be temporary, but you've stayed too long. Why? Because of guilt, because of fear, because you told yourself, this is good enough. But here's the truth you've avoided. God never told you to settle. Remember when the Israelites came to the edge of the promised land? They got scared. They saw giants, and they said, maybe we should go back to Egypt, back to what was familiar, back to bondage. And many of God's people still do the same. We settle for survival when God is calling us into dominion. You've been surviving in a house that's spiritually bankrupt. You've lit candles and cried in the dark. You've played worship music hoping it would lift the cloud. But that cloud hasn't moved, because God's Spirit has lifted from that space. Not every door you walk through is ordained. Not every roof was meant to shelter your destiny. Some homes, no matter how pretty they look on the outside, are simply not blessed. And you've been living in one. This is why your spirit has been agitated. The enemy has tried to convince you that this agitation is failure, that your depression is your fault, that your fatigue is laziness, that the constant tension in your home is just stress. But in reality, it's resistance. The resistance that comes when a chosen one remains in a place God has already departed from. The grace has lifted. And now, so must you. This isn't about judgment, it's about timing. The expiration date on this house, this atmosphere, this chapter has passed. The Holy Spirit is pulling back the veil and showing you what's really been going on behind the scenes. The miscommunication, the irritability, the broken appliances, the constant leaks and repairs, the money that seems to vanish, all of it is spiritual warfare manifesting in the natural. Because the enemy knows if you stay here, your light dims. If he can keep you distracted and discouraged inside four walls that were never meant to hold your promise, then he doesn't need to steal your calling. He just needs to contain it. But today, something is breaking, because you're starting to see the pattern, the way everything seemed to shift when you moved in. How peace used to be easy, how your joy used to come naturally, how your mind felt clear, until this house became home. But beloved, just because you signed a lease doesn't mean heaven did. Just because you bought the house doesn't mean God built it. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Psalm 127:1. You've been laboring, and you're tired, not just physically but spiritually. And God is saying, no more. He's not just rescuing you from oppression, He's repositioning you for overflow. But hear this, before every exodus, there's a moment of confrontation. You must face the truth of what this place has become. You must look at it with spiritual eyes and declare, this is not my dwelling, this is not where I will stay. Because when heaven issues a relocation order, it's not a suggestion, it's a command. And if you delay out of fear, you delay your promise. So today, the Lord is breaking invisible chains. Chains of stagnation, chains of false security, chains of comfort that have become coffins. Chains that kept you in survival mode long after God called you to step into dominion. Chains that tied you to memories, to people, to habits, to atmospheres that are no longer aligned with your destiny. And as those chains fall, the air around you will shift. You'll feel it. The same way you felt the tension. Now you'll feel the release, the lift, the clarity. And when that happens, don't second-guess it. Don't rationalize it away. Don't let fear of the unknown make you forfeit the breakthrough. Chosen one, God is untying the cords that have bound you to a broken place. Because where you're going, chains can't come. And neither can the spiritual weight you've been carrying. There's a key being released from heaven, but it won't fit the locks of this old house. It's meant for what's next, for what's holy, for what's prepared. You are not just being moved, you are being unbound. Chosen one, the Exodus has begun. And just like the children of Israel, you've come to a defining momenta crossing point between bondage and breakthrough, between the known and the divine unknown. What's happening in your life right now is not a coincidence. It's a holy blueprint unfolding. You may not have packed your bags yet, but spiritually, heaven has already assigned your departure date. You are not just moving from a place, you are moving from a frequency that no longer fits your spirit. You've been camped at the base of your old season long enough. There comes a time in every chosen journey when God says, you've been here long enough. Break camp, move forward. Deuteronomy 1-6. And that time, chosen one, is now. You weren't meant to circle this mountain forever. What once was a shelter has become a snare. What once felt like covering now feels like captivity. But hear this, your wilderness has an exit. Your frustration has a door. And God's voice is calling you to rise. Let's remember Abraham. When God said to him, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you," Genesis 12:1. He didn't give directions, he gave instruction. Abraham had no map, but he had a mandate, and so do you. The specifics may still be hidden, but the Spirit already knows. It's time to go. Some of you have been asking, but how will I know? You already do. The unease, the dreams, the sudden disruptions, the discontent that no success can satisfy. Those are not signs of failure, they are spiritual contractions. Heaven is birthing something new, and like any birth, the pain precedes the promise. Don't mislabel what's happening. You are not breaking down, you are breaking out. You're feeling pressure in your current place because it's no longer big enough for your purpose. Let that sink in. This is more than just real estate. This is destiny. There are spiritual coordinates written over your life, and God is redirecting you to the place where your next assignment will unfold. And just like with Israel, He's not just pulling you out, He's also leading you in. You're stepping into territory that's been prepared, protected, and preserved for you. Yes, it might look like chaos right now. Yes, the finances don't line up yet. The door hasn't opened. The confirmation feels delayed. But behind the scenes, angels have already gone ahead of you. Heaven's construction crew is finishing the final details. The new place is, spiritually, emotionally, even physically, is not in progress. It's ready. All that's left is your obedience. And this obedience may not make logical sense, just like it didn't make sense for Noah to build an ark when there wasn't a drop of rain, just like it didn't make sense for Joshua to march around Jericho in silence, just like it didn't make sense for Peter to step out of a boat onto waves. Yet each time, the miracle didn't manifest until the movement began. So, what movement is God calling you to take today? Maybe it's cleaning out that closet not because you're organizing, but because you're spiritually making space. Maybe it's sowing a financial seed, not because you're trying to buy a blessing, but because you're signaling to heaven that you're expecting. Maybe it's finally letting go of that sentimental item that ties you to the past you've already outgrown. Obedience often looks like small, quiet acts, but they thunder in the spirit. The wilderness will always try to convince you to stay. It will tell you it's too late, that nothing better is coming, that you should be grateful for what you have. But here's the truth. God never brings you out unless He intends to bring you in. Asterisk. The enemy wants you to normalize barely getting by, to accept just enough, to settle into a rhythm of survival. But you weren't created to survive, you were created to steward glory. This next place you're going, it's not just a roof, it's not just walls, it's where peace will meet you at the door, where restoration will drip from the ceilings, where your laughter will return without being forced. It's where your prayers will no longer bounce back in silence, but rise like incense and be met with answers. But first, you must pass through the threshold of faith. And crossing that line requires you to stop consulting your circumstances and start obeying your calling. You don't need all the details to move. You need the word. And the word has already been spoken over your spirit. Come out, go forward. I've prepared the way. Chosen one. Don't miss the move of God because you're waiting for comfort. Destiny doesn't wait for your convenience, it waits for your commitment. You've been standing at the edge of your promise for long enough. You've wandered through delay, through doubt, through disappointment. But the cloud is moving. The pillar of fire has shifted. The wilderness is not your burial ground, it's your launching pad. Let the exodus begin. There's something sacred about restlessness, chosen one. That quiet pacing in your soul, the sensation that something isn't quite right, even when everything seems fine on the surface. That's not anxiety. That's not overthinking. That's your spirit trying to catch up with the future God has already written for you. Heaven's been stirring you because your current season is too small for your next assignment. If you've been wondering why you suddenly feel disconnected from things that once brought you joy, why your routines feel empty, why your prayers feel dry, why your inner world feels unsettled, Despite your outer world appearing stable, you're not broken. You're not lost. You're simply being prepared. Prepared for elevation. Prepared for movement. Prepared for transformation. When God is about to move you, He allows the grace to lift from what once carried you. It's not punishment, it's promotion. You're being weaned off the familiarity of a former frequency so that you can step into a place of power you've never walked in before. And here's the reality. Growth rarely feels like glory in the beginning. It feels like stretching, like friction, like frustration. You've outgrown this space, spiritually, emotionally, energetically. And just like a snake sheds its skin when it's reached a new phase of life, you're being called to shed the structures, environments, and even relationships that can't handle the weight of your becoming. Let's be honest, there were moments you questioned yourself. You thought maybe you were being ungrateful. You looked around and saw others settling into lives that seemed calm and complete. You asked God, why can't I just be content here? But deep down, you already knew the answer. Because you were never built for comfort zones. You were built for calling. The unrest you feel is your spiritual GPS, rerouting you to divine coordinates. Consider the story of Elijah. After calling down fire from heaven and defeating the prophets of Baal, he found himself in a cave, weary and unsure. But God didn't let him stay there. He asked Elijah, "What are you doing here?" 1 Kings 19-9. That's the same question heaven is asking you now. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you're still parked in a place you were only meant to pass through. The cave kept Elijah safe, but it couldn't contain his next miracle. Your current place has held you, but it can't birth you. It can't usher in the version of you that's already rising in the spirit realm. And the discomfort you feel is divine evidence that the oil on your life is shifting. The atmosphere you're in is no longer worthy of your next anointing. And it's not just about the walls around you, it's about the weight you've been carrying. You've been shouldering burdens that aren't yours to hold anymore. Responsibilities that no longer reflect your current spiritual maturity. Patterns that were useful in survival seasons, but have now become limitations. The Holy Spirit is highlighting them not to shame you, but to free you. Because this next door won't open with full hands. You must be willing to release what was in order to receive what is. And hear this, you will not miss what God is calling you to let go of. It may hurt in the moment. There may be grief, resistance, confusion, but the weight of the past cannot follow you into the peace of your promise. If you try to carry it, it will contaminate what's meant to be clean. Sometimes, spiritual maturity isn't about learning more, it's about releasing more. You're being invited into a sacred pruning. Jesus said, "Every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful." John 15:2. That's what this moment is, a divine pruning. Not because you failed, but because you're about to flourish. But flourishing doesn't feel like fireworks at first. It feels like shedding, like silence, like being hidden just long enough for God to strengthen your roots. Chosen one, this is the pause before the push. The tension before the door swings open. The quiet before the miracle breaks loose. You are standing on holy ground, even if it doesn't look like it yet. And heaven is watching to see how you handle this transition. Will you lean into the discomfort with faith, or will you retreat to the safety of what's already expired? Don't let a temporary feeling cause a permanent delay. You are closer than you think. The shift is already in motion. The documents are shifting. The atmosphere is realigning. The angel with your key is already en route. All that's left is your surrender, your readiness, your willingness to say, "God, I don't have the full picture, but I trust the one who holds it." That single declaration unlocks more in the spirit than 100 plans made in fear. The universe doesn't need your logic, it needs your obedience. So if your spirit has felt unsettled, if sleep has been elusive, if your home has felt too small, too loud, too heavy, it's not random. It's the alarm clock of your destiny. Wake up, chosen one. You've outgrown this place. It's time to rise. Can you feel it, chosen one? The atmosphere around you is buzzing with divine anticipation. The heavens have been holding their breath because your breakthrough is that close. There's a key already forged, already released, that carries your name in the spirit. It's not made of metal, it's made of obedience, timing, and divine alignment. And the angel assigned to deliver it is already moving on your behalf. This isn't just metaphor, it's movement. Too often we reduce God's promises to poetic ideas, to nice encouragements for hard times. But this time, it's real, literal, tangible. A door in the natural is about to open, and you're going to walk through it with trembling hands and a steady heart. Not because you're lucky, but because God has ordained it. The enemy tried to delay it. He threw every distraction at you. He attacked your finances, your mind, your peace. He tried to make you doubt the vision, tried to convince you it was all in your head. But God was working behind the scenes the whole time. Let me tell you plainly, the delay was never denial, it was divine preparation. While you were waiting, God was aligning. While you were pacing your room in confusion, heaven was assembling the pieces. The phone call you didn't see coming, the opportunity you never applied for. The door you thought was closed for good, that's where the key fits. And here's the truth. This won't look like what you expected. That's how you'll know it's Him. It won't be the way you planned. It won't come through the people you thought it would. You may have imagined it one way, but God's design goes beyond your imagination. His answer will carry peace, weight, and clarity, and it will arrive so suddenly you'll have to catch your breath. That's how heaven moves. Suddenly, seamlessly, supernaturally. Think of Peter in Acts 12. He was in prison, guarded, shackled, surrounded. Then suddenly, an angel appeared, chains fell, doors opened, and Peter walked out free. That's the level of release God is preparing for you. Not incremental, not delayed. Sudden. Asterisk. Your spirit has already sensed it, that quickening in your chest, that shift in the air when you pray, the dreams you've been having, the strange confirmations, the number that keeps showing up, the repeated phrase you keep hearing, the inner knowing that something is coming. Asterisk. Those aren't coincidences, they're spiritual signposts. The key has been released because the time is fulfilled. The only thing God is waiting on, was your faith. Do you believe that you're worthy of what's coming? Can you stand in expectation even when the evidence hasn't yet arrived? That's what activates the promise. Not perfection, not performance. Faith. Asterisk. The kind that praises before the proof, that prepares the space before the door even opens. So start preparing. Clear the clutter, not just physical, but emotional. Make room. Spiritually sweep your heart, your home, your habits. The key coming your way won't fit into a life still crowded with yesterday's weight. God doesn't pour new wine into old wineskins. Luke 5:37. Your vessel must match the volume of the blessing. Chosen one. This next place is not just a home, it's a healing. You'll walk through the threshold and feel it. The pressure will lift. The atmosphere will shift. The silence will no longer feel suffocating, it'll feel sacred. Peace will meet you at the door like an old friend you forgot you missed. Tears will fall, but they won't be sad. They'll be the kind of tears that say, "He did it. He really did it." And that house, that apartment, that unfamiliar space that becomes familiar in an instant, that will be your altar, your sanctuary, your resting ground. It's where your children will sleep in safety, where your prayers will rise like incense, where your soul will breathe for the first time in years. But listen closely, not everyone will understand this move, because what God is doing for you is not common. It's not logical. It won't make sense to those who only walk by sight. That's why the key is in your hand, not theirs. This miracle wasn't assigned to a crowd. It was reserved for the called, and you, chosen one, have been called. So, walk boldly, receive humbly, and expect suddenly. Because the angel isn't waiting for your credential, she's responding to your calling. And the key he holds? It's not just for a new door, it's for a new dimension. You're not just being relocated, you're being released from limitation, from scarcity, from cycles of disappointment. This next chapter doesn't start with applause. It starts with a door and a key, and they're already on the way. Not everyone can come with you, chosen one. This next move is holy, and because it's holy, it's exclusive. It's not cruel, it's consecration. God is not just relocating your body, He's refining your circle. You've been carrying people, memories, and patterns into every new season, wondering why things don't feel as light as they should. But this time, heaven says, enough, asterisk. Before you step through this next door, there's a divine separation taking place. And it may not make emotional sense, but it will make spiritual sense. The weight you feel isn't always the situation, it's the attachments. You've been dragging conversations that ended years ago, relationships that expired 3 seasons back, loyalties that you mistook for covenant. But this shift, this elevation, this homecoming, requires hands that are free enough to receive the key. Remember Gideon? Before the battle, God reduced his army from 32,000 men to just 300. Not because Gideon didn't need help, but because God knew too many voices would dilute the mission. Too many opinions would cloud the clarity, and too many tag-alongs would turn victory into vanity. Chosen one, you are being purified in this transition not only in heart, but in company. Some people walked with you in your wilderness, but they cannot cross over into your promise. They were never meant to. They don't carry the frequency, the reverence, the oil required to handle the weight of your next season. And if you try to take them with you, you'll find yourself struggling under a load God never gave you to carry. Some relationships are soul ties in disguise. They feel familiar, comfortable, even safe, but look deeper. Do they elevate your faith or drain your spirit? Do they celebrate your growth or guilt-trip your boundaries? Do they draw you closer to the presence of God or constantly pull you back into the patterns He already delivered you from? Be honest, because the new territory has no room for spiritual clutter. And it's not just people, it's objects too. Yes, physical things, furniture from seasons of pain, clothes tied to shame, decorations that carry an energy you never questioned. God is calling for a spiritual house cleaning. You've outgrown not just spaces, but symbols, items that represent who you were, not who you are becoming. This is a sacred purging. Remember Lot's wife. She was told to leave Sodom and not look back, but she turned, and in a single moment, became a statue of what happens when we try to carry yesterday's attachments into tomorrow's glory. You can't afford to look back now. What you're stepping into is too costly, too beautiful, too precise to be contaminated by the past. This isn't abandonment. This is alignment, and it will hurt. It may feel like rejection, like sudden silence from people you thought would be with you forever. But God is orchestrating every disconnection with intention. He heard conversations you didn't, saw motives you couldn't, and while you mourned the separation, heaven was celebrating your protection. There are doors that won't even open until the weight is gone. Not because God is withholding, but because the key was never meant to turn with excess baggage in your hands. The lock is sacred. The door is destiny. The access is reserved for those who walk light. So ask yourself, what must I leave behind to walk forward? Maybe it's a friend you've outgrown, a habit you keep justifying, a memory you revisit too often, a belief that says you're unworthy. Or maybe it's the version of you who learned to shrink so others could shine. That version, it can't come, not where you're going. Because this next home isn't just a place. It's a realm of restoration, of revelation, of divine rest. And only what is aligned with heaven's frequency can dwell there. This is why you felt pressure to let go. God is preparing you for purity, for peace, for power. And yes, you'll feel lonely at first. Separation always stings before it sanctifies. But the right people, the ones God has assigned to this next chapter, They're already waiting on the other side. People who won't just visit your blessing, but protect it. Who won't be intimidated by your anointing, but will honor it. Chosen one. The hallway always feels the hardest. That in-between space between what was and what's coming. But don't let the echo of old voices call you back. Don't trade your future for familiar. This door will not open for divided hearts. So, surrender, release, bless what was, mourn what you must, but then stand tall, because what's ahead will make every goodbye worth it. The silence you endure now is making space for heaven's sound. The room you feel in your soul, it's where peace is about to dwell. You can't carry everyone with you, but you can carry the presence, and that's more than enough. Chosen one, you've packed your faith, but now it's time to prepare your spirit. This isn't just about moving boxes or signing contracts. This is about stepping into divine alignment with intention. God is not just calling you into a new location, He's calling you into a consecrated dimension. And the only way to truly enter what's holy is through preparation, the kind that happens in your spirit long before your feet ever cross the threshold. So many people miss their moment because they prepare externally, but ignore what's internal. They clean the house, but never cleanse the heart. They pack the dishes, but not the disappointments. They plan the logistics, but not the surrender. But this isn't just another move, it's a spiritual shift. And it requires a different kind of readiness, one that starts in the secret place, one that begins with prayer, fasting, listening, and letting go. The miracle is not delayed, it's waiting for your alignment. Consecration is not a ritual, it's a recalibration of your posture before the Lord. And in this season, God is saying, dedicate the promise before it arrives. That means blessing the house even before you know the address, declaring peace over rooms you haven't seen, speaking healing into a future kitchen, a future bedroom, a future hallway where God's presence will dwell, because the atmosphere of your next season is created now in how you prepare. Remember Joshua. Before the Israelites crossed the Jordan into their promised land, the Lord gave a simple but powerful command. Consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. Joshua 3-5. Chosen one, that's your word. Consecrate yourself, set yourself apart, declutter your atmosphere, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. This isn't about perfection. This is about posture, humility, expectancy, honoring what's coming before it arrives. Start by blessing your current space, not because you're staying, but because you're finishing the season well. Walk through each room and speak closure over what happened there. Thank God for His provision. Seal it with gratitude. You're not escaping, you're graduating. Then release anything that's been spiritually anchoring you to stagnation. Go deep. Old journals soaked in trauma, clothing tied to heartbreak, tokens of a former self you no longer identify with. They don't belong in the next dimension. Let them go, not with shame, but with reverence. What you release in the natural will echo as freedom in the spirit. Begin to fast, not for breakthrough, but for clarity. Set aside time not to strive, but to listen, not to beg, but to align. Fasting silences the noise, so you can hear the whisper. And that whisper might contain your next instruction. A name, a number, a neighborhood, a date, a moment. Write it down. Journal everything. The Spirit is speaking, and what He says now will direct the steps of your new beginning. Do not dismiss divine nudges in this season. That random home listing that keeps showing up, that stranger who speaks words that pierce your heart, that street name that keeps appearing in your dreams. These are not accidents. These are heaven's breadcrumbs. And they will lead you straight to the door God has already opened. But most of all, guard your atmosphere. This is crucial. You are in a sacred in-between, a spiritual birthing room, and not everyone should be allowed access to it. Be selective with what you listen to, what you speak, what you share. Some people aren't meant to hear about your next, because their words will carry weight they were never called to place on your vision. Even Jesus told the crowd to stay outside while he raised the girl inside. Mark 5:37-40. Why? Because doubt is contagious. And in this hour, your faith is fragile but fierce. Protect it like treasure. Speak life constantly, even when nothing around you shifts yet. Wake up and declare, "My house is coming." Walk by faith through your hallway and say, "This is not my final place." Speak over your children. You will grow up in peace. Speak over your future. This home will carry the glory of God. Do this not because you're forcing the outcome, but because you're fertilizing the soil. Faith is the seed, preparation is the watering, and the harvest, it's inevitable. God doesn't give vision without provision. And when the door finally opens, it won't be a surprise. It will feel like home, because you will have met it with readiness, not panic, with worship, not scrambling, with reverence, not confusion. And you'll walk through it knowing, I didn't just move here. I was prepared for this, called for this, positioned by God himself for this. Asterisk. So prepare, chosen one. Your new address isn't just on a map. It's already been written in heaven. Chosen one, this is the moment you've been sensing in your spirit, the final stretch before the release, the divine confirmation your soul has been waiting for. Let this truth settle deep inside you. Your door is already open in heaven. Asterisk, asterisk. It's not pending approval. It's not caught in delay. The key has already turned in the spirit realm, and now it's about to manifest in the natural. You are not waiting for God to make a decision. God has already decided. He has seen your obedience in the hidden places, your surrender when no one was watching, your worship when all you had left were broken pieces. And because of that, the door is open. There is a divine address with your name etched into its foundation, not in ink, but in heavenly authority. This place you're stepping into isn't just a house, it's a fulfillment, a culmination of every midnight prayer, every fast done in faith, every whispered, "Lord, I trust you," uttered through tears. The enemy knew this moment was coming. That's why he fought you so hard in the weeks leading up to this shift. That's why the warfare intensified, the distractions multiplied, the doubts screamed louder. He knew that if you survived this part, you would step into your promised portion. And you did. You're still standing, still believing, still waiting, not passively but actively. With your hands lifted, your heart open, your spirit expectant. And because of that, the miracle has already begun. Let's recap what's unfolding. You're not just moving houses, you're stepping into legacy. You're not just leaving dysfunction, you're entering divine order. You're not just finding shelter, you're inheriting atmosphere. This home won't be just four walls. It will be an altar, a sanctuary, a prophetic portal. You'll wake up and feel safe. You'll sit at your table and feel peace. You'll walk through your living room and feel praise rising. This is not symbolic, it's specific. And it's so close, you can almost feel the wind from the opening door. But now, before you walk into that miracle, God is asking one final thing. Believe. Asterisk, asterisk. Believe deeper than you ever have. Not with wishful thinking, but with rooted faith. This isn't the time to second guess. This is the time to speak it as if it's already done. Begin to live like the key is in your hand. Act like the door has already swung open. Respond like you are already there. Because, spiritually, you are. You've already crossed the threshold in the unseen realm. All that remains is for the natural to catch up with the supernatural. And it will, swiftly, asterisk, suddenly, without warning. One phone call, one signature, one divine appointment, one moment when everything shifts. So declare it now. My house is coming. My peace is coming. My miracle is real. You're not stepping into a new chapter, you're stepping into a new book. The first line is already being written, and it starts with, "The Lord did it." Divine confirmation, asterisk, asterisk. You were never forsaken. You were never forgotten. This delay was not punishment, it was preparation. Your new home is a divine announcement, not a human arrangement. And when you walk through that door, you'll fall to your knees not from exhaustion, but from reverence. Because you'll know only God could have made this possible. You'll feel it in your bones, see it in your children's laughter, hear it in the silence that no longer suffocates, but soothes. Smell it in the air, thick with rest and renewal. Touch it in the doorframe, the handle, the floor that finally feels like sacred ground. This is the place. Asterisk, asterisk, the one you've prayed for. The one God prepared when you didn't even know how to ask. And when people ask how it happened, you'll smile, maybe even laugh. But deep in your spirit, you'll whisper, I was chosen. And this was always mine. But let me tell you something even more powerful, chosen one. This home is just the beginning. Asterisk. Because once God moves you into the place, He moves through you. And the atmosphere you host, it will become a healing center for others. Your address will be an altar. Your story, a signal to other chosen ones still waiting for their door. And what was once your promise will now become your platform. Asterisk. So stay ready, stay consecrated, stay grateful. Because your key isn't coming. It's already here. Welcome to the new. Welcome home. Asterisk.